Good afternoon, Amani. How you doing?
I'm doing well, thank you, Dr. Ping. How are you?
Yeah, I'm doing very well, and I'm happy that we both from the same province,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
and also people from our province are known for rebels.
Absolutely. Yeah, we
Yeah,
are a freedom-loving people in
exactly.
Sichuan.
Exactly.
We have been that way for thousands of years.
Right. Yeah. Uh, so now, when did you come to America?
I came here in 2009,
Okay.
in February.
Okay.
Hmm.
And I know you and Lily Tan Williams both are quite vocal and trying to uh, warn the American people about the dangers of communism. So, what makes you think that?
Well, um, I have been here for since 2009,
Mm-hmm.
so for about almost 13 years now.
Mm-hmm.
And before, I kind of just, kept my head down and observing and learning and appreciating what a great country America really is, and enjoying my newfound freedom and, and my newfound homeland. And
Mm-hmm.
so I wasn't really um, speaking out or anything because I didn't really feel any urgency or see anything that alarmed me
Mm-hmm.
until COVID hit
All right.
and the lockdowns, the mandates, and then into year 2020, all the protests that quickly escalated into something else that
Mm-hmm.
I did not expect to see here in America. And on top of that, I basically started a new job myself and went through some very dubious training, and which kind of shocked me a little bit.
Okay.
Not just a little bit, just shocked
A
me
lot, right? Yeah. So,
a
so
lot.
what kind of
Uh,
job are you talking about?
it's to work with schools
School.
and mentoring schools. I don't want to go into details about it
Right.
because I
Right.
don't want to.
Definitely understand
Uh-huh.
that. Yeah,
Hmm.
yeah. I taught in a Christian private school, uh, a college prep school for 7 years. So I saw things from inside that I don't like. I mean, uh, at that time I was focused on the academics. So basically, we are lying to parents because we inflate our grades so high that it become meaningless. But the parents they don't know. They when the kids come home with A and B, they think their kids are doing okay. But the reality is that they were not doing okay. And so that's the kind of one of the main reasons I left teaching in a school. So I started my own uh, nonprofit in 2018 and just started also tutor as started my tutoring business.
Good
But
for
it's
you.
only like you said, like doing the um, uh, what actually waked me up is last May I heard that uh, Indiana State hired a chief diversity, equity, inclusion officer, and then several major school corporations also hired their uh, DEI directors. So that kind of remind me about, back in China, those political officers
Hmm.
that came to our school. So that's kind of, I started to waking up, and then I spent several months and just trying to figure out what's happening. And then I was surprised to see that uh, the communists, the neo-Marxists, have already controlled our higher education.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I got really worried and decided I had to come out to speak out because the schools that my organization work with is elementary schools. They are
Right.
targeting K to 3 children, that's 5 to 8 year olds. And I think the younger they're pushing this political agenda on, the faster certain people will be able to achieve their goals, which
Right.
is
Yeah. Yeah.
something that you and I, who have been through all
Right.
of this before, do not want to see.
Exactly. I think that this is their last stage. Once they push down to K through 12, then
Mhm.
it's very hard to, you know, we'll have big uh, hard time to, to fight against them.
Mhm.
And so I know that when you were in China, you actually worked in some kind of the media
Mhm.
organization, right? So what's your experience there?
It was that experience that woke me up,
Okay.
basically.
Hmm.
You know, like growing up in China, we only had one source of information,
Right.
which is the school and the state media. So I was just as brainwashed as everyone else.
Hmm.
I believed, the Communist Party fought off the foreign invaders and gave us a new life, a
Right.
new country. We were we would always refer to 1949 as the liberation, right?
Yeah.
Like before, we would refer to the time before that as before liberation.
Right. Right.
So, but what does liberation actually mean? It
Hmm.
never really occurred to me. It's just
Hmm.
when the communists took over, then that was liberation. So I believed all of those. Of course, I had no idea what the history was like, from 1949 to 1978, basically before the reform and opening policy.
Right.
I had no idea that that part of the history was so dark and
Oh,
so incredibly inhuman.
right.
Um, so when I went to college, I graduated from college in 1999 in Beijing
Okay.
with because I majored in Arabic. So
Oh, wow.
I was admitted into this multilingual radio station that was subordinate to the Central Propaganda Ministry.
Right.
So I was like really proud, It was
Hmm.
any college graduates
Right.
at that
Yeah.
time would be
Exactly.
proud.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was like ready to serve my country, to serve my motherlands,
Mhm.
um, and to give it my best. I thought I would stay there all my life,
Right.
and very
So,
quickly,
yeah.
yeah.
So you didn't know anything about 1989, the chemistry.
I
Right.
Yeah, I knew it happened. I
Right.
was 12 years old at the time, so it was all over the news. So I knew it happened, but nobody explained to me what was it about.
Yeah.
And after it was crushed, and nobody would talk about it, obviously,
Right.
and my
Yeah.
parents would not talk about it, teachers would not talk about it. So you gradually just kind of forgot about it.
Right.
Like I totally forgot about it
Yeah.
by the
And
time.
also,
Mhm.
the West media also, uh, uh, they don't want to talk about that either. Yeah,
Mhm.
I saw a documentary made by BBC is about from 1980 to 2000, that period. So they just conveniently skipped 1989.
Oh
Don't
my
even
goodness.
mention anything about it. So there is a self-censorship on the West, in the
Mhm.
West media.
Mhm.
Mm,
Yeah, the self-censorship it's something that, I mean, I learned as a child at a very young age.
right.
Like um, here's the story, like a random anecdote. When I was working at the radio, I
Mhm,
was in charge of a music and cultural show, and
mhm,
so I for the first year I was put on the news team, and I got really bored of it because it was nothing but propaganda, and I
right.
asked to be switched to a culture and music show to steer away from politics and
Mm,
news. So I was enjoying that, but even as there was one day when I was relaying a piece of kind of anecdotal news or report about the college students from three countries, China, South Korea, and Japan came
mm.
together to make a massive dominoes structure.
Oh,
So I was just telling that story in my recording, and after that, fortunately, nothing is live in China. So you always have to go back
right. You have
to
to go through
yeah to
censor. Yeah.
go through So when I was reviewing my own recording, I realized I accidentally said three students from three countries, China, South Korea, and Taiwan.
Oh, that's
Oh, I scared myself senseless. Like I literally sweated and I trembled.
right.
And like by that time it's like I was maybe in my 23, 24 years old.
Mm,
So I lived my entire life being told, you can never refer
right,
to Taiwan as a country.
right.
So even at the moment, it's like the self-censorship is so strong in me.
Mm,
I was literally trembling and
mm,
sweating. So I was like, oh, what am I gonna do? What am I gonna do?
right.
I'm gonna get into trouble now. So I went back and I cut off Taiwan and I re-edited that
Yeah.
small clip to make it sound like there was a glitch.
Uh,
And yeah, and I read and I listened to it afterwards, and that seemed to have worked. Nobody noticed.
right,
Everybody thought there was just a glitch in the
right.
signal. And yeah, but I'll always remember that moment, like when my own self-censorship is like, it's so strong. It caused such terror in
Yeah.
myself.
But but the consequence is real
Hmm.
if you didn't cut it off. That
Yes,
means you're going
yes.
to lose the job there.
And I
So
would be,
yeah,
yeah, censured, reprimanded. They
right,
will put a record in my
right,
file, and
right.
I will having trouble looking for any other jobs really afterwards. Yeah.
So even in 19, you said 1999, right? You started working. So
Hmm.
even at that time, everyone has a dossier.
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Uh, yeah, by the time I left, I actually got to see my own dossier because I was immigrating uh, out of China. So I needed a non-criminal
Yeah.
record.
Right.
So I went to the Bureau of Talent Management where they kept my dossier, and I saw it was like this thick. Yeah, and nobody is allowed to open it and
Right.
see it
Right.
for themselves, what's written in there. But the person kind of opened it right in front of me. So I saw a stack of paper with my pictures. Yeah, like I saw a picture of myself when I was like 16 years old. Like I had not seen that picture for years and years, but they kept it.
Right.
So it's very scary stuff. Like looking back, it's it's like every minute of your life you're living in fear because you
Right.
don't know what you could have said or done or written is
Yeah.
going to get you into
Right.
trouble because they're keeping a tab on everybody
Right.
since
Exactly.
beginning to end.
Right. And like you said, you just don't know what's in it. Even
Yeah,
though
you don't
it's
get to
your
see
own
it.
dossier, you don't know what's in there. So you always live in fear. Because
Exactly.
once you got some bad record, that means your future is over.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Wow. And uh, so when you were at uh, working in that media, uh, and what kind of censorship you experienced besides like self-censoring?
Oh, it's like I don't even know if we can call it censorship because everything was already pre-written for us. So
Mm,
like um, we were connected to Xinhua News.
right.
Yeah, we have a computer terminal
Oh, okay.
that where we, yeah, directly got reports from them, and our job was just to translate them
Oh,
into
into
Arabic and
Arabic.
broadcast it, yeah, to the Arab regions, and yeah, it's not even like you get to say something and then they will tell you not to say it or
Oh, okay.
filter it out. It's
Right.
like you already knew what not to say from
Right.
the beginning.
Yeah. So
And yeah, and of course there's always the tactics of promoting the Chinese Communist Party and making the China look good to the
right.
world. That basically was our job, is
Right. Right.
to
Yeah.
yeah, promote the China's positive image to the world.
Right.
So like in the first year I was put on the news team, as I said before. So like our news was like always consisted of three parts. First part is major good news about China.
Right.
So it's either about the leaders are being very busy working for the people, having conferences, making
Right.
policies,
Mm,
or some interviews of people who are telling that how their life had been improved since
mm,
the CCP took over, or there's like a massive harvest
right.
in the south,
Yeah.
big steel growth in the north.
Yeah.
Yeah, and in the first year, I was because I was a fresh out of school student. I was like, why is this news?
Mm,
This is like if as we were told, our socialist system was the most advanced system in the entire world, then shouldn't that be a matter of course?
mm,
That people are happy
mm,
and our crop products
yeah.
is sufficient. But no, that was news. That was to yeah, major good news about China. So it's not it's not about reporting news. It's about keeping a positive image of China. Um, so yeah, that was like extremely boring. Like then whenever there is like a major event, for example, SARS in
Right.
2003, there will always be a directive like that's issued directly from the Central Ministry of Propaganda to
Mm,
tell us what to do, like what to report, what word,
yeah.
like it's very specific, like uh, to every detail, like what words to use
I
in
see.
this. Yeah, like so it's like the censorship is like it's so pervasive. It's like in literally in every word, like what word you can use for this organization, what word you can use for this person's title, for example. It's extremely detailed. So it's like um yeah, it's the purpose is to guide public opinion.
Right.
Yeah, it's in the correct
Yeah.
direction.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
which is basically what the party wants you to think.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
so
so actually, when you move from news reporting to culture, actually, you are taking a risk because
um,
in culture and all that, it's easy to, like you say, like your experience, you make some mistakes.
mhm. Yeah, yeah, it was. I guess you could say that because I actually had a little bit more freedom
Right.
in case of choosing my content.
Right.
So like I was extremely careful. Like I said
Yeah.
before, my self censorship was so strong. Yeah, so all I could do was steer away from anything, like anything that could trigger any sensitive topic,
Right.
like back then from I think from 2000, yeah, I started doing the music show from 2000 to about 2007.
Mhm.
Yeah, all I can do is like for example, like introducing a musical instrument that is like
Mm,
a traditional Chinese musical
mm.
instrument. Even with that, even with the music show, I got a couple of times I got alerted by my supervisor because I started playing Western music
Oh,
occasionally. Yeah,
I
like from Taiwan or Hong Kong. My
okay.
supervisor would come and tell me that does not reflect our value. That does not reflect our culture. You need to reduce the amount of music that you play that would reflect a Western influence.
Right.
So yeah.
That's kind of interesting because that is exactly a phrase they use nowadays in America uh,
Mhm.
for big companies when they actually fire someone. It's always said what they said does not reflect our culture of this company. It's just like wow. Uh,
Yeah, it's the similarities are astounding. It's like
yeah,
it's
it
just
is. I mean, just
astonishing.
right there, right? Couldn't even not to
Hmm.
see it. Uh,
Hmm.
so when you're in China, do you have access to uh, the outside world? Do you know what's going on? No.
No, no, not really. I mean, the only access I had to the outside world is through pirated DVDs,
Right.
to watch Hollywood movies and the TV shows. That's how I learned English and how I basically got a glimpse of what Western society was like, how people were living their lives. And yeah, that's for me, it was like that was education for me. It
Right.
was like um,
So you learn English on your own.
more or less, yes, because
Wow.
I learned high school English, but then in college I majored in Arabic, so I kind of abandoned English. But
Right.
after, yeah, after I started working,
Oh,
I watched a lot of movies.
yeah. So your English is great. I mean,
Thank you.
considering like you learned on your own, uh,
Thank-
and so um, I think there is something a lot of Americans they don't know that inside China, like you said, there is really no access to the outside world unless you use some illegal means, right? Those are um, uh, well, in the eyes of the Chinese Communist Party.
Mhm,
Yeah. So like you have no access. I mean, you don't basically you don't have Twitter, you don't have Google, you don't
mhm,
have Facebook, you don't really you have practically nothing. Everything is being censored, and
mhm,
even the words, right? But I mean, if you use the wrong word, they will delete your tweet
mhm,
or close your account.
mhm.
And this is actually what we see now is happening in America. I mean,
Yeah.
Facebook, Twitter, they can, yeah, even, uh, Trump, when he was a president, his Twitter account was closed. I mean, that just in the past is unthinkable. I mean,
Yeah.
but
Hmm.
we are saying those same things happening here.
Hmm. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, that's what got me really alarmed, like especially when it started censoring in
Yeah.
2020, like Facebook and Twitter, and they would send people messages saying your post contains harmful
Right.
information. When I saw that phrase, I was shocked because that's exactly what Chinese government
Right. Yeah.
does. Harmful information.
Right.
Like when I was back in China, you know, there was I experienced censorship for the first time on the internet. So this was back in 2000, I think,
Right.
very early on, and you know, I was posting on an alumni forum. So my you know, I was just answering my old classmates friend my old classmates question about how I was doing
Mhm.
working for the radio,
Mhm.
and I mentioned corruption. I mentioned that word. I've witnessed corruption firsthand,
Oh, wow.
and I got censored.
Yeah.
Like that was the first time. Like it was like a alumni, online alumni. It has nothing to
Right.
do with news or
Right. Right.
politics or anything. But I got a message from the website itself saying your post contains harmful information.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was shocked that as a young person, I was scared because you know
Right. Right.
this
Because
means they're watching you.
yeah,
They're
you do.
watching what you say.
Yeah.
And then of course after that I would never post anything
Right. Right.
talking about even mentioning the word corruption
Yeah.
is, you know, it was a no-no for me.
Right.
So
And that's
yeah.
what we see. I mean, in the past couple of years on Facebook, they have those fact checkers.
Mhm.
Everything
Mhm.
is your post is against the community standard, and
Mhm.
nobody. We don't even know what is the community standard.
Exactly, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. And they make it so vague too. That's another similarity. You know, it's like they make it so vague. You just don't know which word
Right.
is the sensitive word. That's the trigger word. Like back when I was still part of a doubar.com, that was like that's like a popular Chinese like a movie and
Right. Right.
books and music sharing website.
And like
Like
YouTube, right?
a little bit like YouTube, yeah. It's kind of like a social media
Right.
platform as well.
Uh,
I would like post like a piece of local news in Guangzhou or
uh,
something, and I couldn't, you know, it wouldn't get published. It just keeps you know, and bouncing back and say
uh,
there's harmful information. But which word? I keep
yeah,
changing the
yeah,
words, and I just don't know which word is the trigger word.
right.
And I think that's the same tactic. And now in the end, you just give up,
Right.
right? So you give up sharing that
Right.
information.
Right. You don't.
So
Yeah.
so people won't see it.
Right.
So most people will be just happily ignorant of that event. So yeah, it's the same tactic that I've seen too much of it, and this is not something that we want to see
Right,
here.
exactly. Yeah, um, uh, like we see here, like when COVID-19 started, I mean, people call that Wuhan virus, and
Mhm.
that get, a lot of people upset, and they changed the name to COVID-19.
Mm.
And so uh, I actually I have been on Facebook for many years. I only got one Facebook post deleted, and that one is in that post I said that I'll keep calling this virus Wuhan virus. I want to keep CCP accountable for it, and that
Mhm.
gets deleted.
Yeah, that's like what's wrong with that? Like, if in the normal democratic society, that should be praised.
Right,
That should not be censored. It's the democratic society is all about
different
allowing
opinions,
different
right,
voices,
right,
different opinions. Not to mention that your opinion, when you said you wanted to hold CCP accountable, that is exactly what a democratic society should do, is to
right,
hold the culprit accountable for
right,
what they did, especially if it's a government.
right. I mean,
But yeah, but
we
I think that spirit is kind of slipping away here from a lot of people. So that really worries me.
yeah. Yeah, exactly. But I think fortunately, American people are waking up, uh,
Hmm. I see
yeah,
that too. Hmm.
and I also uh, quite very grateful that people like us speaking out here, because
Hmm.
we saw what happened. We experienced that. We don't want our children to, you know, to have the same experience.
Exactly.
We want
Yeah.
to live in a free country, but now in the past 2 months. I mean, it just like everything gets shut down, right? I mean, the mask man, I mean, in terms of mask, in terms of vaccine and all that. And I have friends like nursing friends and doctor friends, and like they were saying that they really don't know how effective that virus is. I mean, the vaccine is, and we don't know what's the long-term effect of this, but they dare, I mean, they couldn't speak up.
Yeah, they don't allow debates.
Right.
That is what really scares me because it is. I mean, I personally I took the vaccine myself, but
Right.
that was my personal decision, and
Exactly.
I think that's I thought in a free society you get to make personal decisions like
Right.
that. So
Right.
whether I choose to risk the virus or I choose to risk the side effects of the vaccine,
Right.
that's nobody else's business. But now it's like, they don't even allow questioning
No,
anymore.
you
It's
don't. You
like,
don't. Yeah.
and a lot of people that I have seen kind of stopped asking questions too as well. It's like they would just do whatever.
Right. Right.
Yeah, the mainstream media is telling them to do, like get a booster, get another booster. So, when I stop, I would ask them, what kind of vaccine, requires 3 shots
Right.
in a year and is still not preventing the virus
Right.
from spreading.
Right.
And then they call me conspiracy theorist, call me, yeah, a non-believer of science.
Right.
I'm
Right.
like, science is all about asking questions.
Exactly. Science is,
And
yeah, with
yeah,
different point of view, and we're trying to have a reasonable conversation, right? To have
hmm,
a debate. But no, I
yeah,
mean, they just use that. I mean, it's exactly the same tactic
hmm,
the Chinese Communist Party did,
hmm,
right? They use
yeah,
that science as a big club, and
hmm,
they said communism is scientific, so therefore anything against it is against the science. It's like, yeah,
exactly.
and
Like
this
when
is
I,
what, yeah,
mhm.
and this is what's happening today in America.
Yeah, it's scary stuff, but I do see a lot of people waking up to this because, yeah, as we Chinese would say, 物极必反, like,
Right.
anything that is overdone will
Yeah.
have the opposite effect.
Yeah, you
So
got
I'm
this
hoping, yeah,
pendulum, right?
Mm-hmm.
effect. You move back. I think they actually overdone because they are trying to push that kind of thing
Mm-hmm.
to children,
Yeah.
and so that got a lot of mama bears not
Mm-hmm.
happy.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a parent myself, so
Mm,
and I work in an elementary school,
right.
so I want to tell you this little anecdote again is that I when I was trying to help a little, I think, third grader read, we were reading a passage about like a three-speed shiny black mountain bike,
Okay.
and every time we came across the word black, the kids would hesitate. You
Uh,
know, she would like lower her voice and was reluctant to read it out loud
mm,
without my encouragement.
mm,
So at first I thought she just didn't know how to pronounce the word, but then she kept doing it while she read the rest of the passage with minimal difficulty. So I realized maybe this is already going on,
right,
the self-censorship.
right,
Like when they start telling you certain words are off limits, especially to the young children, that's very quickly will create this self-censorship.
right,
Like it becomes an instinct, like
right,
how I would scare myself to death because I said Taiwan was a country
right.
accidentally. So that will create like a mentality prison that will take a lifetime to break out of. Like it took me 20 years of my adult life
Yeah,
to
we
break out of that.
yeah, like
Yeah.
you, like I grew up during. I mean, I'm a bit older, so I grew up during the Cultural Revolution. So I'm pretty much same late. Uh, uh, and we learned that the self censorship, and
Mm-hmm.
that took me years to undo it
Mm-hmm.
because you almost become physical, right?
Mm-hmm.
You do feel that terror
Mm-hmm.
can
Yeah.
overtake you. So if you're not even dare to think outside the party line.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so
So,
we see the same thing now. We are scaring the kids,
mm-hmm.
and now especially with a mask mandate, a lot of kids are afraid to take the mask out.
Yeah, I
It's,
know. Yeah, it's like my daughter is only 6 years old. She's been wearing a mask for almost 2 years now.
mm,
And when our county decided to lift the mask mandate, I told her on Monday you don't have to wear a mask anymore. And she was very worried. She looked at me and said, but I like my mask.
mm,
And that made me feel so sad. It's like, and then I had to talk her through it. I had to tell her a mask is not part of your clothing. It's to prevent a disease. And now that the disease has become less of a threat, it's not necessary anymore. But she would still look at me. She can't understand because when you tell kids to do something, they do it, and it becomes a habit for them,
right,
and then they feel insecure when that habit is becomes unnecessary anymore. And so that's how you create, kids who obey, who
right,
kids who don't think for themselves,
right,
kids who, for the sense of security, would just put on whatever you tell them
right,
to
right.
put on.
Yeah,
Yeah, to cover their faces so they don't have to live in fear. This is a very bad thing. It's just heartbreaking.
yeah. I interviewed a former teacher a couple of days ago. She was teaching at the daycare. So in the daycare, they are supposed. I mean, teachers were telling those are like 3 or 4 year old, telling them uh, uh, people are not wearing masks are like are monsters.
Oh
Yeah,
my goodness.
yeah. It's
That's just
like
horrible.
I
That's
know. It's just
horrible.
those.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, what worries me is not really the political narrative. It's this culture that's changing.
Yeah.
It's this people who are vilifying and demonizing those who do not conform,
Mhm.
and seeing them as the enemy. And
Right.
this culture that has become us versus them,
Right.
while we should all be coming together and supporting each other and tolerate different opinions.
Right.
I see that spirit and that culture kind of slipping away. And that's what really worries me. Like, I don't understand why people would think that way. Like what makes people who don't wear masks monsters? Like how, what did they actually do to harm you, to make you use such a strong word, and to take that to the children? I would like to like understand their psychology. Like, what good does that
Yeah.
do?
Right. I'm trying
Yeah.
to understand too. That's why one of the reasons I to have this show is talk to teachers and parents, and especially want to talk to um, the administrators, like because they make decisions. But the
Mhm.
one thing I know internal masking is because they're uh, uh, the government money has a string attached to it. They
Ah.
have to mask the kids, and in order to mask the kids, they have to tell them. They have to tell them a story, right? So that's um, it's in a way it's kind of it's easy to tell them, okay, if you wear a mask, you are good. If you don't wear a mask, you are bad. So, um, but like you say, that's kind of culture um, um, that you just really have like people against the people. Right.
Mhm.
Like when I grew up during the Cultural Revolution, we have this 10 classes, right? We got this red five and black five. So you are belong to different castes in the society. So you're always against each other. And that's how the communists could stay in power. Uh,
Mhm.
that way, I mean, people are just fighting each other, not fighting them.
Mhm. Yeah, absolutely. I think the tactics to divide people is, yeah, they're exactly the same. Like, they're the us versus them mentality. And once you put that into a child's mind, they will see the world that
Right.
way.
Yeah.
Like, when we were children, we hated America, and
All right.
we've never even been to America. We don't even know that what it's like. But that hate was like repeated over and over and over again through the narratives and the school teachers,
Right.
through textbooks. And
Right.
that is so deeply rooted in our head that we would just hate something that we don't have any idea of. That's
Exactly. And
so.
it's kind
Mhm.
of it become an emotion, right?
Yeah,
The
yeah,
hatred is real, even though
yeah,
we did not knew the real America. Like
yeah,
another thing is like we've been taught uh, since very young the Japanese are bad, right? That
exactly,
was the
exactly.
hatred towards them,
Hmm.
and but uh, when I get the chance to go to Canada for my graduate study, I had to pass over Japan, Tokyo, and there I met a very nice Japanese teacher, and that's kind of for me. That's oh, there are good people in Japan, but the
Yeah,
thing is, we've been kind of brainwashed.
yeah, that kind of brainwash is like, it's very easy because when you divide the world into us and them, it's simple to understand for a child. So that just take roots immediately in a person's mind. And I find that extremely dangerous. And then,
Yeah,
yeah, they
uh,
grow up.
right.
Yeah.
And this is what now I think the young people young children are experiencing. Like like the media always say that critical race theory is obscure uh, graduate level, course, and nobody is teaching that. Nobody is teaching in K to 12, and that is partially true. I mean, it was not taught as a course or as uh, uh, a class, but the ideology behind it is used to
Hmm.
teach the kids, right? To
Hmm.
have them see the world in terms like one group against another, right?
Exactly.
If you're white people, you are bad.
Hmm.
If you are, black people, you are good.
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
if you are Asian, you are also bad because we are has been, um,
Yeah.
you know, we benefit in a way like anybody benefit from the current
Hmm.
economic system are bad.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
yeah, it's just kind of like exactly going on during the Cultural Revolution, right? The rich people are bad, the poor people are good.
Hmm.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah, it's I mean, maybe they're not teaching directly to the children in schools, but the teachers are going through similar training.
Yeah,
Many teachers are in elementary schools, and even if they don't say this directly to their children,
right,
to the students, they are indirectly channeling all that negative stereotyping. Basically, I'm just gonna call it what it is. It's
right,
negative stereotyping, and they might and all this training, like the training I had to go through, is basically just something like that. It's like you have to recognize your white privilege, and if you are someone who benefits from this society, that
right,
means you're privileged and you need to recognize your privilege. So that what does that create in the teachers? Anger and frustration and depression, and they're just gonna indirectly channel that through to the students. So there's no good that can come out of this. In
yeah,
the long term, it will only do harm
it
to
is. Yeah,
both adult and children psychologically
right.
and mentally.
Yeah, students and teachers. Yeah.
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
yeah, this is something I'm still trying to figure out. What the superintendents, the school board members, well, I mean, why don't they see the harm? Why don't they allow that to happen? So I don't know yet. So I'm still trying to figure that out. And but I
Hmm.
give you just kind of one example. Like Indiana, last year, uh, less than one third of uh, grade 4 to 8, less than one third of students are proficient are up to grade level, proficient in math and language, less than one third. But about like 7 years ago, the average, state average is kind of 60%, something like that, 60, 70. Now we dropped to, less than one third. And then the superintendent had an annual meeting in December, and they have they didn't talk anything about the academics. So they have like uh, three topics. One is about diversity, equity, inclusion. One is about social emotional learning, and another one is how to deal with parents uh, at the board meetings. So basically, they think that the parents who showed up are troublemakers. It's
Yeah.
just that's their mindset.
Yeah. Yeah. I think, I don't want to judge people, but when educators become so sure of themselves, like they become so sure they're doing the right thing,
Mhm.
and they start to reject the reality that the
Right,
children are actually lagging behind in the most basic foundation of
right,
knowledge, which is math and reading.
right,
I think there's something very psychologically wrong with it. Like, um, I don't want to call it schizophrenia, but it's
mm,
kind of a little bit like schizophrenia. It's like what they consider as important knowledge in life is no longer what has been proven to be
right,
the foundation of
right,
knowledge in life. They think social emotional is more important. They think equity is more important.
right,
But what life survival skills is that are those things going to give our children when they
right.
grow up and have to live in the real world? And
Exactly. Well,
um,
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
They're thinking, in many ways are quite childish. Like their way of understanding equity is everybody the same. I mean, you just cannot have that. And also,
yeah,
well, if you want to uh, bring this people up, I mean, that is a noble effort, right? I mean, poor
hmm,
people bring up, but that's not how they do it. They're trying to
hmm,
pull people down so that you
exactly.
artificially look about the same.
Hmm.
So yeah, I think
Mhm.
go ahead.
Yeah, and that's basically what we were taught in Chinese schools as well. We all had to wear the same clothes, cut the same hair, and everyone needed to be equal. And the equal, basically, the concept of equal in our minds was the same.
Mm,
It's not equal opportunities. Like it's not like
right,
everyone has the same right to
right,
do what they will as long as they don't hurt nobody.
right,
But the equal in our concept is that everybody must be paid the same, everybody must be, must be, the wealth must be
right, right, right.
redistributed, equally. And so that I think, yeah, that is still Marxism. It's just like when they apply this logic to education, then that really becomes disastrous.
Right.
So
Yeah, yeah, that's
because
what.
for yeah
That,
for adults we can still like I don't know if I told this story that back in the radio station I was getting too good. My music and culture show was gaining a lot of audience,
okay.
and then my supervisor put me aside and told me my pay needed to be cut down by a third because I was getting too good. I
Huh?
was getting too popular, and the other old comrades, they complained. Yeah, they complained. So I needed to be brought down, to be paid the same, to be treated the same. So that's equity for you,
Right, right,
right?
right, yeah.
Equal outcome. You're not even allowed to excel. You're not even allowed to go out to do a good
No,
job.
no, no,
So
definitely.
that's exactly the same logic that's applied to schools here now. It's like if you're the schools that are like canceling gifted and talented
Right, right, right,
programs, canceling advanced math
right,
programs in the name of equity. That's
right.
exactly what happened to me. Like I was getting too good.
Right, you got too
I,
good, so make
yeah,
the people bad. So
yeah, exactly. So that's the same logic,
yeah,
and I see that just as very, very harmful.
yeah, definitely very harmful.
Hmm.
Yeah, I think now that's why you see a lot of parents pull their kids out of public school. Yeah, I think if they still trying to push it, uh, they will destroy the public school system.
Yeah,
The
yeah.
parents just have.
I, mhm. Yeah, I hope, like, and I am very hopeful because I think I see more and more parents who are pushed to their limits now. They're like, yeah, you made changes of the curriculum. You made like there's only so much, people can take,
Right. Yeah,
basically.
exactly.
I, yeah. So when you push them to a corner, what do you expect them to do? They either defend themselves and fight back, or they accept and
I think in the past, like parents and most parents, they just don't want to have trouble, right? They don't want to be called bad names,
hmm
and they don't want to hurt people's feelings.
hmm
And so that's why we gradually we get being pinned down to
hmm
the corner, and now we see our kids are suffering. And I think it's the last straw. Once you know, you just cannot touch my kids, right?
Exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah. Especially, I think people like first generation
yeah,
immigrants like us, like we came here because we didn't want that kind of life,
right,
and
right,
we came here because we saw what can happen. If you brainwash one generation
right,
of children, they grew up to rebel against their parents,
right,
not just rebel in the normal sense,
right, right.
but like to
Very
bring down
disrespectful.
yeah, to become actually destructive. And um, yeah, we've witnessed it. So we've seen, like, I didn't witness like cultural revolution like you did. I know it's just absolute horror, and chaos is just
Right,
disaster for humanity. But like once I started working in the radio station, I realized that cultural revolution there, it never truly ended
right.
because it's the same narrative, the same mentality. So when I read the book 1984,
Yeah,
yeah, that book literally sent a chill down my spine because everything described in that book I witnessed in the radio organization, the study sessions where they change the language,
right.
where the big hate, where they
Right.
basically it's the struggle sessions, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that was to a much smaller degree, but it was still going on
Still going on,
in
definitely.
the central government's propaganda sector.
Right.
So yeah, so that was what woke me up, and yeah, so by the time I was like maybe 25, 26, I tried to leave China, but I couldn't. I couldn't get a passport issued. So I tried to escape, but failed.
Mm.
And but later, I got a chance to leave, and once I came to America, like the freedom I had felt, like even just in the first week, like
Right.
I saw a flyer promoting Falun Gong, and I was blown away. I was like, because back in China, everybody self-censor. That is a word you can't say out
Right, right.
loud.
You cannot even say it. Yeah.
You cannot say it. Like you either whisper or you just use a homophone or you use a word to
Right.
replace it. I
Right.
had never dared saying that word out loud. But when I saw the first week in America, I saw that flyer promoting Falun
Uh,
Gong. I trembled. Yeah, I trembled again. It's like that's how strong that um, the prison that I lived in for so
right.
long,
Yeah.
the effect that had on me physically. Like
Right. Right.
I shook, my hand shook,
Right.
and then I realized it was for the first time ever I could say this word out loud.
Right.
And
Wow.
so that's what worried me when I saw my student, a third grader, was hesitating to
Right.
say the word black in a passage that's describing a bicycle.
Right.
That just really worried me. It's like once a child creates this self censorship, it'll take a lifetime for them to
Right.
get it
It's
out.
definitely the psychological damage that.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's
Means
extremely
right
strong.
now, I think the whole mass mandate, vaccine mandate, I mean, to the children, they are pretty much child abuse. And
Oh,
because
I would say,
everybody knows it's not effective, but we still
yeah,
mess them up. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, and it create. I think what it creates is I don't want to use that word, but it's someone who would just obey, who would always do what you tell them to do, and that's just what any dictatorial government would love to see.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, a population who that does nothing but obey.
Right.
That's
Exactly.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's what
This
they
is
love to see.
yeah. This is the road to serfdom, right? We're
Yeah.
getting, yeah. We are being prepared. Yeah. Well, not us. The especially particularly the children are being prepared for that.
hmm
Yeah.
hmm
Well, thank you so much. I don't
Thank
want
you for
to take
having
too
me.
much of time. I hope we can talk more in the future.
Definitely, it's
Yeah,
been a pleasure
yeah. I
talking
think
to
this
you.
is still going to be a long struggle, a long fight.
Yeah, we're in for it because it will not end. I think it's just part of human history. It's
Mhm.
like every century has its
Yeah,
own struggles, and
right.
history keeps repeating itself
Yeah,
if we don't learn from it. So yeah, let's I think
definitely. Yeah, I think just like Ronald Reagan said that every generation has to fight for freedom.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
And freedom is so precious. Like I always tell people here, I'd rather die in a
right, right, right.
fight to defend freedom than live under oppression again. Because let me, I you know, living under true oppression is not a life worth living.
No, definitely not. Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, thank
yeah.
you so much. Yeah,
Thank you for having me.
yeah. Okay, bye.
Have a good day. Bye.
Thank you.